Now let's discuss shut-in procedures. So if any positive kick indication is noticed and the flow check has showed that the well is flowing, then it should be shut in immediately. All right. If there is any doubt about the kick, the safest procedure is to shut the well after the flow check. Okay. A small gain can quickly turn into an uncontrollable situation leading to a block. All right. So shut-in procedures. Shut-in is a process of closing the well in case of occurrence of a kick. Okay, it's a process of closing the well in case of occurrence of a kick using the blowout preventer and other well control equipment. And there are two common methods to shut the well, which is a hard shut-in and second is a soft shut-in. All right. Okay. Now once you are confirmed by a flow check, if my flow check is positive, then I should go for a shut-in. Okay, whether to go for a hard shut-in or a soft shut-in, it depends on the company's policy and as per the API specifications. Okay, now let's discuss lineup for soft shut-in versus hard shut-in. Okay, now from this particular figure you can see that drilling spool has been given. Okay, a manual valve is given, a HCR valve or a hydraulically controlled gate valve is given. Okay, this is a choke manifold basically. Okay, and from this distribution block, if I am following this particular line over here, I will get a remote choke. Okay, from the remote choke it then goes to buffer tank. From buffer tank it has three routes. One is to the mud gas separator, one is to the waste pit, and one is to the shale shaker. Okay, similar route we can take from this distribution block, from the center of the distribution block to the manual choke, then it can go to the buffer tank. From buffer tank it can go to mud gas separator, to the shale shaker, and to the waste pit. All right. Okay, now another important thing that we need to take into consideration is this particular figure. Okay, so this is the drilling spool given over here and there is manual valve and HCR valve. Okay, a very important point that we need to take into consideration is my manual valve will always be ahead of my hydraulically controlled valve. Okay, the reason over here is, let's say in by any chance my HCR valve got damaged or it require any sort of repair work. Okay, at that time what we have to do is we have to operate our manual valve. Okay, we need to close the particular manual valve and then we can go for the repair work of HCR valve. Okay, so that's why manual valve is always given in front of HCR valve. Okay, now in case if I am placing my HCR valve in front of manual valve, then if any repair work has to be done, then it won't be possible. Okay, so that's a very important point that you all need to take into consideration. Now talking about the procedures of shut-in, so there are basically 4 procedures for soft shut-in and 3 procedures for hard shut-in. Okay, let's look at soft shut-in first. In soft shut-in, the very first thing that we need to do is the choke is kept open. Okay, the choke over here is the remote choke. Okay, my remote choke is kept open first. Now at the kick, HCR valve gets open. Okay, when my well has taken the kick, at that time we need to open the HCR valve. Third point we need to do is that we need to close the BOP, and the fourth point is to close the well choke. Okay, to close the well we need to again close the remote choke. So that's the 4 techniques or the 4 procedures that we go for when we are going for a soft shut-in. Okay, now coming to hard shut-in. In hard shut-in, the very first point is we have to keep the remote choke closed. That's the first point. Second point is when my kick occurs, that is, when the well has taken the kick, at that time close the BOP. And the third point is after closing the BOP, now we need to open the HCR valve. Okay, so these are the 3 procedures involved in hard shut-in. Now advantages of hard shut-in. As you can see, in hard shut-in I have 3 steps involved, and in my soft shut-in I have 4 steps. Okay, so less number of steps are involved as compared to soft shut-in, so lesser time to shut the well. Okay, as a result influx volume will be less. As we all know that if I am taking more amount of time to close the well or to shut the well, at that time the influx can enter more into the wellbore, which can result to devastation. Okay, so it is always recommended that I shut the well as soon as possible. And if I'm going for a hard shut-in, then the time taken for shut-in procedure, overall time taken for shut-in procedure would be less in hard shut-in as compared to that of a soft shut-in. Okay, now coming to the advantages of soft shut-in, it prevents water hammer effect. Okay, one of the disadvantage of hard shut-in is that there is high amount of water hammer effect. Okay, but in soft shut-in we can prevent that particular water hammer. Okay, so that's about the lineup for a soft shut-in versus hard shut-in. And again, it depends on the company whether to go for a soft shut-in or a hard shut-in. Everything, each and every company will have their different SOPs. Okay, now coming to well killing, the objective of well control operations is to bring the well under control as quickly as possible. A well kill is performed at reduced pump speeds, usually at about half the normal drilling circulation rate. Okay, this reduced pump speeds is generally known as slow circulation rate, and the pressure corresponding to that is my kill rate pressure. Okay, we will discuss these terms in coming slides. Now, why we go for an SCR or a kill rate pressure? Let's see. To limit additional pressures, okay, like annular frictional losses on the formation during the kill process. That's the first thing. Second is allow weighing up and degassing of the drilling fluids. Okay, now if I'm going for a slow circulation rate, if I'm going for well kill with slow circulation rate, at that time I'm giving enough amount of time for weighing up, that is enough amount of time to weight up my drilling fluid, and also I am giving enough amount of time to degas. Okay, for the process of degassing also we are giving enough amount of time if we are going for a slow circulation rate of well killing. Okay, now third point is reduce the load on surface equipment. This is a very important point. By SCR we can achieve reduced load on surface equipment. Fourth point is increase the reaction time for correct choke adjustment. And fifth point is pump pressure limitation. All right, we will discuss these points again in coming up slides. Now SCR, let's discuss about SCR in detail. SCR is a circulation rate at which the well will be, at which we will be using while well killing operation. During well control operations, to avoid further entry of formation fluids, it is necessary to keep the bottom hole pressure minimum or almost equal to formation pressure. Okay, this is done by imposing certain calculated back pressure in addition to the system pressure losses, as long as my old mud is in the system. This calculated back pressure, okay, this calculated back pressure is the pressure corresponding to the slow circulation rate, which is also termed as kill rate pressure. Okay, KRP or kill rate pressure. Now, why slow circulation? To ensure my slow circulation rate plus my SIDPP should not exceed the surface line rating. This is a very important point. To allow longer reaction time for choke readjustment, to allow sufficient time for disposal of kick fluid or degassing at the surface, to reduce the annular pressure losses, and mud mixing capacity. Okay, so because of all these 5 reasons we are going for a SCR or a slow circulation rate. Okay, now very important note over here is kicks have to be circulated out at SCR to ensure that the sum of this back pressure and the system losses does not exceed the rating of high pressure lines and other equipment. Okay, again this is a very important point and one of the most crucial point regarding SCR. Okay, now when to take SCR, again it's a very important point. Whenever we are changing the mud, at that time my SCR needs to be taken. Okay, whenever I'm changing my liner of the mud pump, at that time also my SCR will get changed. So we need to calculate what would be my SCR. Third is whenever I'm changing the orifice, let's say I have changed my bit, at that time also I will have to go for calculation of SCR once again. While changing bottom hole assembly, at that time also we need to take into consideration to calculate SCR. And start of shift. Okay, whenever the personnel goes for a shift change, at that time also SCR needs to be calculated. Okay, and now let's see how to calculate SCR. So for that, the very first process is to stop the pump, take the string off the bottom. Third is pump through the drill string, and fourth point is return flow and records standpipe pressure at the rate 30 SPM of kill rate pressure. Okay, so what we do is we first stop the pump, all right, and we take the string off the bottom, and at the off bottom position I will start the pump, I will circulate my drill fluid at 30 SPM of slow circulation rate. Okay, SPM means strokes per minute. SPM is strokes per minute. Okay, so for this particular case my SCR slow circulation rate is 30 SPM. Okay, so once I start my pump, what I do is I increase my SPM by difference of 5. Okay, I will first run at 5 SPM, then at 10 SPM, 15, 20, 25 and 30. Till I reach 30, I will increase my strokes per minute of my mud pump, and whatever pressure I'm recording at 30 SPM becomes my kill rate pressure. Okay, now let's discuss this particular portion. This is a very important portion as far as gate numericals are considered. Okay, so take special note regarding this. Now as we all know, my pressure or the mud pump pressure is directly proportional to the flow rate square. Okay, and as we know the flow rate is directly proportional to the strokes per minute, so we can also say that my pump pressure is directly proportional to the SPM square. Okay, where SPM is strokes per minute. Now since we know that pressure upon SPM square is constant, so from that logic we can calculate this particular thing, which is P2 equal to P1 into SPM of 2 the whole square upon SPM 1 the whole square. Okay, so this is a very important concept for gate. Now let's discuss well killing methods. The very first point, whenever we discuss about well killing, the principle of well killing is to keep the bottom hole pressure constant. Okay, to keep the bottom hole pressure constant, and it should be at least equal to the formation pressure. A very important point. Okay, very first point only. Before we talk about well killing, the very principle of well killing is to keep my bottom hole pressure constant, and my bottom hole pressure should be at least equal to the formation pressure. That's a very crucial point. Okay, now coming to types of well killing, there are basically two types. One is of circulating in nature, second is non-circulating. In circulating we have driller's method and weight and weight method, and in non-circulating we have volumetric and bullheading. Okay, now coming to the thumb rules, again a very crucial point, thumb rule. Whatever thumb rules I discuss, I will use this concept in coming up slides. Okay, when I'm discussing drillers, weight and weight and volumetric, I will use the thumb rules there also. Okay, so take special note and please understand at this point only. So very first thumb rule is, whenever you touch the pump, okay, whenever I touch the pump for changing my SPM, you keep casing pressure constant. Okay, again for changing SPM means, as I mentioned, once my pumps are off, I will to reach till SCR or the slow circulation rate, what I will do is I will increase my strokes per minute of the pump by 5. Okay, so 5 SPM, 10 SPM, 15, 20, 25 and 30 SPM. Okay, so basically what I am doing is I am increasing my pump speed. Okay, so whenever I am touching the pump, or whenever I am trying to increase the pump speed or decrease the pump speed, in other case, at that time I will always keep my string and my annulus can be shown as two different arms of a U-tube. Alright, so this left hand side is my drill strings arm of U-tube, and this right hand side is the annulus side of U-tube. The pressure recorded at this annulus side would be my SICP or the casing pressure. Okay, and the pressure recorded at the string side would be my SIDP or the shortened drill pipe pressure. Alright, so let me repeat it again. Whenever I am touching my pump or whenever I am changing the SPM of my pump, at that time I will keep this shut-in casing pressure or the casing pressure constant. Got it? So that's about first point. Now coming to the second point, whenever you have a single phase fluid, okay, whenever you have a single phase fluid in your one flow arm of the U-tube, you keep the pressure corresponding to that side as constant. This is again a very crucial point. Let me discuss over here. Let us say that my well has taken a kick. So this part, this red part in the annulus side is the kick, okay, and this green part, what I am representing is my mud, okay. The green part is my original mud. All right. Now you can see from this particular diagram that my drill string side has single phase fluid. My drill string side has single phase fluid, but my annulus side of the U-tube, you can see that I have two different fluids. One is the kick, which is shown by red color, and the drill fluid, the original drill mud. Two different fluids in my annulus side, okay, but in my casing side, but in my string side or my drill string side, I have only single phase fluid. Let this be by SI DPP. So what we have to do is that whenever I am having one fluid in one of the arm of my U-tube, I will always keep that side pressure constant, okay. That means in this particular case, in this particular example, I will keep my SIDP constant, because in my string side of the U-tube I have only single phase fluid, but in my casing side of the U-tube or in the annulus side of my U-tube, I have two different fluids in the form of kick and drilling mud. Got it? So that's the two thumb rule that I wanted to discuss, a very important concept, and we would be using this concept throughout whenever we are discussing well killing. A very important method. So it's a two circulation method. Drill string volume is greater than open volume at that only case, that is drill string volume greater than open hole annulus volume, only in that case we will go for driller's method. And when we have to circulate out the kick as soon as possible, at that time we will go for driller's method. I will discuss all the 3 points in detail. Now coming to the two circulation method, okay, as we all can see from this diagram given over here. So this diagram is for first circulation, and this particular diagram is for second circulation. As we can see, the dark green color is shown by original mud weight, red color is by influx. In this, original mud is shown by dark green color, and this violet color is indicated by kill mud. You can see that my well has taken a kick, okay, in this first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. In my first case, my well has taken a kick, okay, you can see the well has taken a kick in the influx as red color. In the second diagram, you can see that my kick is going up, okay. In the third diagram, the kick has moved above the bottom hole assembly, and now slowly my kick is going out, and in the diagram 5 I can see my kick has reached till the surface, and in the points in the diagram 6 you can see that my kick has gone out. In circulation, what we do is that you can see, so this is diagram 1, diagram 2, diagram 3, diagram 4, okay. In diagram 1 of second circulation, you can see that I have now started pumping heavy mud or kill mud, okay. Again, this kill mud is shown by violet color, so you can see that I am pumping kill mud from the drill string. In point 2, you can see that the kill mud has reached till the bit or till the bottom of the well. In point 3, you can see that now the kill mud has started occupying the space of annulus, and in diagram 4 you can see that the kill mud has entirely occupied my well. So in first circulation at this particular point, okay, after point 6, my well has not yet reached the overbalance condition, okay. So if I begin drilling from this particular after first circulation, then there are chances that my well may again undertake a kick, okay. So what I do in second circulation is that I start to circulate kill mud through my system, so that once I fill the entire well bore, that is drill string and the annulus part of the well bore with my kill mud, then and only then I can get overbalance condition. And once I have the overbalance condition, and after that I can go for normal drilling operations. All right, so that's first point of two circulation method. Now second point is my drill string volume should be greater than open hole annulus volume. This green part of what I am highlighting is my open hole annulus volume, and this yellow part what I am indicating is the drill string volume. Okay, so driller's method is only applicable when my drill string volume is greater than the open hole annulus volume. Why this? I will discuss that in coming up slide when I am discussing weight and weight method. At that time I will discuss this in pretty much detail. In this particular diagram, this will be my SICP reading and this will be my SIDPP reading. So this is the chart, or this is the recording that I obtained while performing a driller's method in a particular well. This part is the first circulation part and this part of the table is for second circulation. Alright, now let's begin the well killing. So at initial stage, okay, my well is shut. When my well is shut, my SIDPP is 500 and my SICP is 700. SIDPP, and let this be my SICP. So when my well is shut, at that time SIDPP is 500 and my SICP is 700. Alright, do is, as you can see from over here, is I am trying to increase my pump speed by 5 SPM. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 and 30. Okay, and 30 is my slow circulation rate. Okay, 30 is my slow circulation rate. So what I am doing over is I am trying to increase my pump speed. Okay, at that time, again the thumb rule, remember the thumb rule, whenever I am trying to increase my pump speed or whenever I am touching my mud pump, at that time I will always keep my casing pressure constant. So you can see I kept my casing pressure constant throughout. See, it is 700 from the beginning, but over here my SIDPP is getting increased. When I reached my 30 SPM, okay, at that time the corresponding pressure that I obtain is my initial circulating pressure, ICP. Okay, ICP is also termed as initial circulating pressure. So my initial circulating pressure will be equal to my SIDPP plus my kill rate pressure. When my SIDPP was 500 in the initial case, so I can get my kill rate pressure as 300. Now I have achieved, now my pump is pumping the drilling fluid at 30 SPM, which is my slow circulation rate. Okay, now let's see. Now what happened is that now let's go to this particular diagram of YouTube. Now this particular case, like at the end of this point, okay, at the end of this point, what would be my YouTube condition? See, at the end of this point, you can see that my annulus has two different fluids in the form of kick and the original mud, and my string has only one type of fluid. At point, I have my drill pipe sides pressure constant. I will keep my drill pipe sides pressure constant because I have only single phase fluid in that particular string. So you can see from the chart, I have kept my drill pipe pressure constant. Okay, I have kept 800 throughout. You can see that my casing pressure is rising. Okay, and once it reaches 1000 and then it goes to 5000. What does mean? This mean this 1000 to 500. This means that my when my SICP was 1000, my kick has reached the surface, and once the kick goes out of the surface, at that time my pressure of casing will go down to 500. Beginning of the second circulation will have my 800 psi of SIDPP and my SICP of 500. All right. So let's now change my YouTube diagram. Now in YouTube you can see that my entire string at the end of first circulation, my entire string will be filled with mud, the original mud. Okay, see, both the annulus side as well as my drill string side is filled with the original mud. Now you can see that what I'm doing at this point is now I will start pumping kill mud through the system. SIDPP is going down. Okay, as we all know that when some heavy mud, when heavy mud enters into the system, my overall pressure will decrease. Okay, my shut-in pressure will go down, obviously, because heavy mud has entered into the system. Now since heavy mud has entered into the system, you can see that my SIDPP is going down. Let's see. ICP, at this point, at beginning of ICP, I have two different two different fluids in my wellbore. See, I have two different fluids in my wellbore in the string side. Okay, when I'm having two different fluids in particular arm, I won't keep that pressure constant. Rather, I will keep the annulus side's pressure constant. So you can see from this table only, when I'm see, I'm keeping my casing side's pressure constant to be 500 throughout. Okay, because my kill mud has now entered into the drill string. Okay, from the drill string till it reaches the bottom part, I will keep my SICP constant. Okay, and why SIDPP is going down? The reason is when the kill mud enters into the system, at that time my shut-in pressures will go down. All right, see that this point, that is my final circulating pressure. Okay, as I mentioned, whenever I'm changing the mud, at that time my kill rate pressure will also change. Okay, in the slides where we were talking about slow circulation rate, at that time we have told that whenever we are changing the mud system, at that time my slow circulation rate will change and the corresponding kill rate pressure is also going to change. Okay, so that's why my KRP, my kill rate pressure, has now increased to 350 psi. 350 psi is my final circulating pressure, and if you want to calculate final circulating pressure, it will be equal to my kill mud weight divided by current mud weight into kill rate pressure. This point, surface to the bit, at this point my kill mud has reached till the bottom part. Okay, that means till the bit my kill mud has reached from the drill string. Now I think I can now change the diagram. So my kill mud has reached till this point. Okay, my kill mud has reached till this point. Now in this case, once my kill mud reaches till my bit, now I have single phase fluid in the drill string side. Okay, now I will keep my drill string pressure constant. See, 350 constantly I will keep 350. Okay, and see, look at here, my casing pressure is going down because now the kill mud has entered into the casing side of the casing side of my U-tube. So I have two different fluids in my U-tube. That's why my pressure is changing. And why my pressure is decreasing? My pressure is decreasing because the kill mud, being heavier in nature, will always try to reduce the shut-in pressure. This procedure till I get 0. Okay, that means when after completing the entire pumping the entire kill mud till the surface, and after that when I stop the pump, at that time I will record when I record SICP and SIDPP both equal to 0. At that time I can conclusively say that I have successfully killed the well. I have brought back my primary well control, and now I can open the BOP and I can drill further. Let's talk about some of the new formulas over here, which is very important for as far as gate is considered, gate numericals. So ICP is equal to SIDPP plus kill rate pressure. Okay, where ICP is initial circulation pressure and KRP is my kill rate pressure. If I'm told to calculate what would be my kill mud weight, it will be equal to my current mud weight plus the SIDPP divided by 0.052 into TVD. Again, a very important concept, and I think questions have been asked from this particular formula. Now talking about final circulating pressure, it will be equal to kill mud weight divided by current mud weight into kill rate pressure. Someone asked me to find out what is the strokes involved when you are pumping the fluid from surface to bit, then that would be drill string volume divided by pump output, where drill string volume, the unit would be in barrels, and pump output would be barrel per stroke. So the unit in the numerator would be strokes. Now same, if someone asks what would be the strokes involved for the pump to circulate my drilling fluid from the bit to the shoe, so that would be open hole annulus volume divided by pump output. Okay. So this particular diagram is for first circulation method, first circulation method of driller's method, first cycle method of driller's method, and pink line or magenta line shows us the drill pipe pressure side, and the blue line shows us the casing pressure side. Okay, now so it has this particular point, the point I over here, this particular point is my initial circulating pressure point. Okay, so and done. Okay, initial circulating pressure point. So now you can see that as I'm keeping my as we know SICP is equal to SIDPP plus kill rate pressure. As let this be A, B, C, point D and point E. Okay, now as you can see that at point A in my well, the kick is present in the annulus side. Okay, and slowly I am pumping the drilling mud at slow circulation rate. At 30 SPM, I am giving my slow circulation rate, and you can see that my kick is going upwards. Okay, again I am keeping my drill pipe pressure constant. The reason is I have only single phase fluid in my drill pipe side. Okay, so I have continuously keep my drill pipe pressure constant throughout. Now you can see that my pressure is rising, my casing pressure is rising when I go from point A to point B. See, the reason over here is at point B my kick has reached the annulus of bottom hole assembly. You can say that my bottom hole assembly clearance is very less. As we all know, the clearance at bottom hole assembly is very less. Okay, so that's why I can see a spike in my casing pressure. Point C, you can observe point C. In point C, my kick has now gone above the bottom hole assembly, so you can see there is a drop in my casing pressure, because now at point C, when my kick has gone above the bottom hole assembly, my clearance is less. As the kick moves up, okay, as it takes the journey till point D, where point D means my kick has surfaced, I can definitely see a rise in casing pressure. Okay, because over here it follows the gas migration theory. In a closed well. So as we all know, in a closed well, when my gas migrates upwards, the casing pressure rises. So that same concept is reflected over here. At point D, you can see my casing pressure has gone very high, and my kick has surfaced at point D, and at point E I have removed my kick out of the system, okay, by using the original mud only. I have not pumped any kill mud at this point. So this is my first cycle of driller's method. All right, now let's discuss the second cycle of driller's method. Again, this blue line indicates casing pressure and the pink line indicates drill pipe pressure. All right, now you can see that when I am pumping my kill mud through the drill string, okay, you can see that in the drill string side, I have two different fluids. See, I have two different fluids in my drill string side. Okay, that's why I will keep my casing side pressure constant. See, I have kept my casing side pressure constant, but since I am having two different fluids in the drill pipe side, and according to the YouTube concept, I won't be keeping my drill pipe pressure constant. Pressure is going down. And why my drill pipe pressure is going down? Again, I mentioned that when a kill mud enters the system while well killing, at that time my shut-in pressure will go down, because kill mud, being aware in nature, will always try to bring down the shut-in pressure. All right, so this point M indicates my mud as now, that is my kill mud has reached till the bit. Entire drill string is filled with my kill mud. I have single phase fluid in my drill string. So after that, after the point M, I will keep my drill pipe side pressures constant. Okay, my SIDPP I kept it constant, and you can see that when my kill mud enters the annulus of the wellbore, at that time you can definitely see that there are two different phases of fluid in my wellbore, in my annular side of the wellbore, that is my kill mud and my original mud weight or original mud. Okay, so since it has two different fluids, I won't be keeping casing pressure constant. Okay, and you can see that there is an obvious decrease in the casing pressure, and this is reason. Again, the reason is the same. When the kill mud enters the system, at that time the shut-in pressures will go down. Particular point, you can see that this is my casing pressure has gone to 0, and my drill pipe pressure is equal to my FCP. This straight line of drill pipe pressure is my final circulating pressure. Got it? This point, if I am now stopping the pump, now if I am at this point, if I am stopping pump, at that time if I am getting my SIDPP equal to SICP equal to 0, then I can say that my well killing is a great success, and I have achieved the overbalance condition, and I can now open my BOP and I can continue drilling further. Now let's discuss the advantages and disadvantages of driller's method. As we all know, it is simple to understand. Minimum calculations are involved, and in case of salt water kick, sand settling around the bottom wall assembly is minimum. Okay, because I am doing this in a very quick manner. Out the process, the entire process occurs in a very short span of time. That's why sand settling around the bottom wall pressure is minimum. Around the bottom wall assembly is minimum. Now, disadvantages is higher annular pressure, higher casing shoe pressure in gas kick, and minimum 2 circulations are required, and more time on choke operation.
Let's discuss weight and weight method. It is a one circulation method. It is a one circulation method, and it is only used when my drill string volume is less than the open hole annulus volume. That means when this drill string volume is less than this and open hole annulus volume, at that time only this particular weight and weight method of well killing is applicable. Okay, we will see why this particular case is applicable for weight and weight in coming up slides. Now, since I have mentioned that it is a one circulation method, okay, that means when we were discussing about driller's method, at that time we had seen that in my first circulation of driller's method, I was circulating out the kick to the surface by the use of old mud, by the use of old drilling fluid. Okay, and then in the second circulation we were using kill mud to bring back the well into overbalance situation. Okay, but in this case, in my weight and weight method, I am injecting or I am pumping the kill mud at the initial stage only. Okay, that means when my kick is in the annulus, at that time only I am pumping my kill mud. That's why it is termed as one circulation method. All right, now let's see this. Let's see this table. So this table shows us the reading for a weight and weight method. Okay, where you can see that my SIDPP and SICP has been recorded. As we know, this would be my SIDPP on the drill pipe side, and on the casing side my SICP will be recorded. Now run the pumps at ICP. Okay, I am running the pumps at initial circulating pressure, and so my SIDPP would be 800 and SICP is 700. Again, the same process that we followed in driller's method, where we were increasing my pump SPM by 5 units, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and 30 was my SCR or slow circulation rate, and slow circulation rate, and the pressure associated with it was my kill rate pressure. All right, the same way we did in driller's method, we are replicating that same method over here also. Okay, so initially, so run the pumps at ICP. Now you can see that, okay, now and in that case, I've started circulating. You can see that in this diagram, you can see in this YouTube, you can see that this is my string side and this is my annulus side, and let this green color be original mud, violet color be the kill mud, and let this red color be the kick. Okay, now you can see that when I've started my SIDPP at SICP when I started my SIDPP at ICP or initial circulating pressure, you can see from this particular point I have started pumping kill mud. Okay, so you can clearly see that as I am pumping the kill mud into the system, my SIDP is going down. See, it is going down. And on the other hand, where in the annulus side, where my kick is there, you can see that my pressure is getting increased. Okay, so as this particular kick goes upwards, my shut-in casing pressure increases, and on the drill string side, as the kill mud is filling the drill string, at that time you can observe that my SIDPP is going down. Now let's discuss that same thing in graphically. So you can see over here that, let's say I have started pumping, okay, let's say, let me divide this diagram into 6 parts, okay, and at this point I have begun pumping at my ICP equal to SIDPP plus KRP, kill rate pressure, okay. Now see over here, this violet color indicates the kill mud entering into the system. So you can very clearly say that as my kill mud is entering into the system, my drill pipe pressure is going down. See, it is going down, okay. This particular point, that is this particular point, at this particular point my entire drill string is filled with kill mud, okay. Now whatever pressure I am getting at this point would be my FCP or final circulating pressure, alright. And from this point, from I to J, this point my entire drill string is filled with single phase fluid only, okay. So that's why I will now keep my SIDPP constant. Got it? Okay. Now coming to the annulus side, you can see that in my annulus I have kick, okay, I have kick. So from point A to B, as my kick goes up, okay, from point A to B you can see that it has now entered the bottom wall assembly part, okay, bottom wall assembly. Again in the bottom wall assembly you can very well see that my annular clearance is very less in my bottom wall assembly, okay. So that's why I can see a spike in the SICP, and once my kick goes above the BHA part, at that time my casing pressure will drop again, okay, because above the bottom wall assembly my annular clearance will be higher, okay. Now from point C to D you can see, now as the kick goes up my casing pressure is rising, okay. Now at this point D, this is very crucial juncture, okay, at this point D you can see that above this point D now my kill mud has also started entering into the annulus, okay. So this point you can see that my slope of increase of casing pressure, see my slope of increase of, let's say if let's say my kill mud was not entering, then the slope should have been this, okay. But since my kill mud has started entering the annulus system, you can see that my slope of the casing pressure has reduced, because now the kill mud has entered into my system of annulus, and because of that my overall shut-in casing pressure has now started reducing, or the rate of increase in shut-in casing pressure has now reduced, okay. Now at point E, my kick has surfaced to the surface, kick has now surfaced, okay. And after that at point F I have completely removed my kick out of the system, and point G means I have achieved my overbalance condition. Got it? Okay, so this is how you graphically represent the weight and weight method, okay. Now again there is a well over here, this is the casing seating depth, and let this be the drill string volume, let this be the drill string, this is the bit, okay. Now I've discussed few times, I've discussed various times that when my open hole volume, when my open hole volume is greater than drill string volume, okay, at that time weight and weight method is feasible, okay. The meaning over here, the reason over here is that when my drill string volume, when my open hole volume is greater than drill string volume, at that point if I am looking at the position of my kick, okay, if I am looking at the position of the kick, then you can see you can say that my kick would have been below the casing seating point, okay. If in this case, in this particular case of where my open hole volume is greater than drill string volume, at that point if I am looking at the position of my kick, then it would have been beneath the casing seating depth, okay. And we all know that my casing seating depth is whatever depth my casing seating is there, that is the least competent formation, and it is most vulnerable to fracture, okay. So that's why you can experience more amount of casing pressure at this point,
okay, my casing pressure would be very high at this point if my open hole volume is greater than drill string volume. Okay, so in the driller's method, as we all know that once my kick is circulated entirely out of the system, at that time only we are pumping kill mud. In that method, what we are saying is that in the initial stage only we are pumping kill mud. Okay, in the initial stage itself we are pumping kill mud. As a result, you can see that in this particular case where my open hole volume is greater than drill string volume, at that time if I am going for a wet and wet method, at that time I would have some kill mud in the system. At that time when my position of the kick is below the casing sitting depth, at that time only I will have some amount of kill mud in my system. Okay, that means heavier mud would be in this particular system. As a result, my casing pressure observed in driller's method and in wet and wet method. Okay, let's say in driller's method, if I am observing, let's say 800 casing pressure, okay, at that time my casing pressure observed in wet and wet method would be, let's say, 500. Okay, it would be less. My casing pressure observed would be less in wet and wet method because my kill mud plays the role. My kill mud, because it is heavier in nature, the overall casing pressure observed will be less. As a result, whenever I am having this case, whenever I am having the open hole volume greater than the drill string volume, at that time I will opt for this particular technique of wet and wet method instead of going for driller's method. Now coming to the advantages and disadvantages of wet and wet method. Again, low annulus pressure, I have mentioned it. Low casing shoe pressure when open hole volume is more than the drill string volume. Again, I have discussed this. Well can be killed in one operation, in one circulation, and less time on choke operation. It is obvious. And high non-circulating time is there. This is one of the disadvantages. In case of salt water kick, sand settling around the bottom hole assembly is common, and calculations are more comparatively and more chances of gas migration.
Let's discuss volumetric method. There are several situations where you cannot circulate through the well. So those situations may be plugged drill string or a plugged bit, or a drill string is above the kick, or my drill string is out of the hole completely. Okay, in these three cases, let's say my well is having these three cases and unfortunately my well has taken a kick. Okay, at that point we have to go for a volumetric method of well killing to get back my well control. All right, so with the volumetric method, the volume of gas influx will allow migrating and the casing pressure will increase till a certain figure. Then a specific amount of mud will be bled off to compensate the increase in casing pressure. The volumetric method will allow this kick to surface while the bottom hole pressure is almost kept constant. Okay, I will discuss this particular point in the next slide. Okay, then you guys will understand it completely. So let's look at this particular situation. Let's say my drill string is plugged. Okay, in that particular situation, what pump any sort of drill mud through my drill string. Okay, because since it is been plugged or since it is been choked, I cannot pump my kill mud or I cannot pump my drill fluid through the drilling side. Okay, plus I cannot record anything. My SIDPP won't be recorded. Okay, so in that case what I will be doing is I will use a kill line. I will use kill line for it, and I will pump kill mud through that particular line. All right, second point is when my drill string is above the kick. So let's say in this particular case, okay, let's say my well has taken a kick. See, my well has taken a kick, but my drill string is above the kick zone. Okay, that means till this particular zone, we need to go for a volumetric method of well control. And once my kick goes above the drill string, then we can go for a driller's or a wet and wet method. All right. Now the third case is when my drill string is completely out of the hole. Now in that particular case, that means let's say I have pulled out the entire drill string. Let's say I had to change my bottom hole assembly or I had to replace my bit, and that time unfortunately let's say my well has taken a kick. So during that particular situation we need to go for a volumetric method of well killing. All right. Okay, now let's discuss how this volumetric method really works. So it works on two principles of bleeding and lubricating. Okay, so bleeding and lubricating is the principle that we use for a volumetric well control. All right, let's see how this particular thing works. Again, this is a pressure versus time chart, and again this is the casing pressure. Okay, this is the casing pressure versus time. As I said before, I will not get any recording of SIDPP in my when we are going for volumetric method. Okay, because let's say my drill string was choked, or my drill string or my bottom hole assembly was choked. Okay, at that time I won't be getting any sort of recording at my SID drill pipe side. Okay, so I will be only taking into consideration casing pressure for volumetric method. Okay, now let's say this particular graph, you can see that my casing pressure is rising. Okay, that means my the kick is also rising with time. Okay, it is going above with time. So this first point is the first build up when my well was shut in. This is my first point. Okay, now with more time I am giving, the kick is moving upwards and my casing pressure is also rising. Okay, so at this point, at point number 2, allow gas to migrate until casing pressure read 850 psi. Okay, now for point number 3, what we do is that we bleed off 2.3 barrel, keeping choke pressure plus or minus 20 psi. Okay, so in point number 3, what we do is that we start to bleed off some amount of fluid, some amount of drilling mud from the chokes. Okay, since I am bleeding off this particular case, that means now it is following the gas migration theory in an open well. Okay, since I am bleeding off certain volume, that means I am allowing my gas influx or my kick to expand itself. All right, so because of this expansion of kick, my overall casing pressure, that, or in other words, my overall shut-in casing pressure gets reduced. So you can see that my casing pressure's slope of my casing pressure has now reduced. See, this is because I am allowing my gas to expand to certain point. Okay, so at this, so from point 2 to 3, I will bleed off 2.3 barrels of drill mud. Okay, and at point 3 I will again close the choke. Okay, and after closing the choke, again see, my pressure is rising, my casing pressure is rising, but see, you can see that my now the increase in casing pressure is not that much as compared to before. Okay, now at this point 4, so during this zigzag region also I am again bleeding off certain barrels of mud. Okay, now I am bleeding 3.6 barrels of mud. Okay, so because of this bleeding, again my gas will expand, my influx will expand, and my casing pressure will reduce. Okay, so I am again repeating the same process. I am bleeding off at this point, I am bleeding off at this point. Okay, so at regular intervals I will bleed off certain amount of drill mud from the choke. All right, now let's look at this particular image. So you can see that my kick volume was 10 barrels at the bottom. When it reached till this point, it was 10 barrel. Now from this particular point, see, this is the point number 3. Okay, from point number 3, what I did is that I started bleeding off certain amount of drill mud. As a result, see, my volume of gas is rising, or else in other words my influx is expanding. Okay, see, you can see now again I am at this point, again I am bleeding off certain barrels of mud, so my influx is again rising in volume, and as I am keeping on bleeding off certain amount of barrels of drill mud, my volume of kick is also rising. As a result, my overall casing pressure is getting reduced. Okay, so this is my bleeding process. All right, okay, now once my entire kick is out of the surface, then what we will do is, from the kill line you start pumping kill mud. Okay, and this process is lubricating method. This method is called as lubrication. All right, so what you do this in lubrication method is that I will see, let's look at this point. let's start from this point. So from this point I have pumped 3.5 barrels of mud. So when I am introducing heavier mud into the system, my shut-in pressure went down. Okay, once I pumped 3.6 barrel, I again closed the kill mud line. As a result, my casing pressure rise to certain extent. Again I pumped 3.6. okay, my casing pressure rise. Again I pumped 3.6 and I continued this process. Okay, I continued this process till my casing pressure went to 0. Okay, so at regular intervals I would be pumping 3.6 barrels of kill mud. Okay, 3.6 barrels of kill mud at regular intervals I will be pumping, so that my shut-in casing pressure will go down. Alright, again this 3.6 barrels is just for example that I have taken these values. Okay, we will do calculations regarding this, how much amount of barrels of mud we should bleed off, or how much amount of barrels of mud we should be using while lubricating process. We have numericals for it and we will discuss that in my numerical session. Alright, so this is how volumetric method works. Again, volumetric method works on lubricating, bleeding and lubricating process. Okay, done. Now let's talk about bullheading. So concept of bullheading is to pump the kicks, back into the formation by using kill weight fluid. Alright, so when may you consider using bullheading? Let's discuss. When the kick size is very big, so you may not be able to control the excessive volume coming to the surface. So when my kick size is very large than anticipated, then at that time we should go for a bullheading method. Second is when there is a possibility to exceed the surface pressure and volume gas on the surface if the conventional methods, or like driller's method, weight and volumetric are performed. Let's say if there is danger that my gas or kick pressure, the pressure that will be communicated to the surface, if it exceeds the maximum surface pressure, then there are chances that my surface equipments can get ruptured. Okay, so in that case we may go for a bullheading method. Third point is, if my influx contains high amount of H2S or hydrogen sulfide, then we can opt for a bullheading method. Okay, as we all know, H2S is a very poisonous gas, and even at low concentration also H2S can be very lethal, or it can be very fatal to the human beings. Okay, so at that point also we can go for a bullheading. And fourth point is, when there is no spring in the wellbore, at that time also we can consider going for a bullheading, and in that particular case we will pump my kill mud through the kill line. Okay, now let's look at the factors affecting the feasibility of a bullheading process. So those factors are reservoir permeability. Okay, now this is a very important term. If my permeability of the reservoir is high, at that time only I will consider for a bullheading process. Okay, the reason is, since the layer has high permeability, then if I am trying to pump back my kick back into the formation, at that time, because of this high permeability, my kick will easily go into the formation without fracturing. But let's say if my formation is very tight in nature, or it has less permeability, then if I am trying to pump the kick back into the formation, at that time I may experience higher mud pump pressure or higher back pressure I would be experiencing, and my tight reservoir can get fractured. Okay, so that's why reservoir permeability is very crucial when we talk about the selection criteria for bullheading process. Okay, second point is surface pressure rating. Rating of surface equipment such as BOP, wellhead, casing, etc. will limit the maximum allowable pumping pressure. Okay, and point 3 is type of influx. Again, talking about type of influx, the gas migrate, as we all know, will migrate very rapidly, and it will increase the surface pressure. However, liquid influx, which can be an oil or water, will not cause increasing in surface pressure because it will not migrate. Alright, so we need to be cautious while we are going for bullheading method. Okay, we need to check whether my reservoir permeability is high enough, we need to check whether my surface pressure is high enough, and we also need to take into consideration what type of influx I am dealing with. All right, okay.